Welcome back. I can recall back the nightmares of going for a photo shoot. Today we're going to talk about taking pictures without I don't know, the tiresome photo shoot, makeup, and all of those things that you think you have to do. Traveling, I don't know, packing suitcases and suitcases. I don't know about you. For me, it's just not my pill. I can trace back to a very bad memory of like photo shoot. My husband can tell anyone better. Like every time I think about photo shoot, I'm like, why does anyone have to do that? Why can't I just do selfies and post on social media? And so I think I am one of the people with the worst pictures on social media. And when I met Annemarie, I was like, what do you do? And she's like, I do virtual photo shoots. I'm like, virtual photo shoots. Like, what is that? And she's like, I take pictures without you having to leave your house if you don't want to leave. I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah, in fact, I take most of the pictures when you're not posing for them. Like I take more pictures of when people are not trying to pose for the picture than I take when they're trying to pose for the picture. And I was like, why? And I was like, because that's how I can get your raw, authentic vibe without you trying to pretend, keep up anything, look like something. And I was like, I am your perfect person. Like you need to like sell me something because I don't know. I am so not interested in posing and looking cute and looking funky. Like I am not. So if the cameraman is not in the room, even better for me. And so today we're going to talk about Annemarie and how she helps people build or bring out their personal brand from like a dull one, or how you can look at your profile or content and go like, is this me? Like every picture you try to put up is the polished one where you look like $1 billion, but really you're like Prima. Like, every day you just have like a jumper on and you're just moving around with your day. But social media has a way of making us feel like we have to look better. Why do you have to look better? Why do you have to look different? Like, why can't you just be you? Like, I've always been the kind of person that believes that people will like you for the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so I never understand why everyone has to have polished social media. In fact, for me, I don't even follow people who have everything polished because I'm like, there's no one who can be that polished. And so when I met Annemarie, I was like, this is something people need to experience because a lot of us are under this pressure of photo shoot and you have to take pictures and which is amazing. But which of those pictures do you look at and you go, that is me? Which of those poses would you naturally want as a like? I feel like there's a gap between the person that most people are and what the professional photography tends to bring out. And I feel like Anne-Marie's work is amazing for bringing out a true, raw, authentic personal brand that I think in this day and era could be the difference between where we are and where we're trying to get. So, Anne-Marie, welcome to the show. I am super excited to kind of have you on because I cannot wait for you to explain what you do. I don't know that I've explained it well, but I can't wait for you to kind of dive in.
Thank you so much. That was a brilliant introduction. You summarized it pretty well. That's what I do. That's my mission to make people feel
Mm,
as amazing about themselves
mm,
as, people who love them do. And I found, especially as women, we always take compliments not very lightly and not very easily on. And it
mm.
breaks my heart, especially as a photographer, when you have those moments of fun and joy and you capture them for, eternity now. And then they look back at the photo and only zone in on what their perceived flaws are. Or they feel like they contorted themselves and they don't own it. So that's a lot of psychology behind it, like the confidence. And I can't just make people see, yes, I am that amazing. I am great and I earn it. And so with virtual photography, I found that is like the gap that I could bridge where I could just get it into people's heads. You are that queen. You are amazing. And I need you to see it and I need you to own it and I need you to remember it every time you look at the picture. And then you remember the moment, because photography, a lot of people just understand it as, yeah, somebody takes a snapshot, like a selfie. But then it just lives and collects dust on your digital hard drive, and it just doesn't do what it can do, because photography is self-expression, it is art, it's exploration, it's connection, it's communication, it's a lot of different things in one thing. And if you know how to do it, like with any kind of discipline, it can hit people in the fields, right? And you can use it for so many different things to manifest what you want to be, because you're embodying it during the photo shoot and you have physical proof of it. And like you said, with social media, people like to portray themselves already as the experts, but there's this emotional disconnect between, like, I feel like playing dress up right now. This doesn't feel real, especially in studio photography. A lot of people then are kind of in awe and a little bit shy when they see all of the equipment, the lighting, the set, the entire camera gear, and then the photographer in their faces. I've noticed, and I was there too, when there's a person in the room, in the face, and has this, gadget in front of their face and tells you what to do. Like, look at it, don't look at me. Like, and you're like, there's too many impulses at the same time, because I also have ADHD. I'm easily distracted, and so people completely shrink. Their energy changes, their body language changes, and you can't tell them to smile because that just looks horrific. Right? You need people to smile with their entire body and to be in the moment and to get out of their head. And I'm a very head centered person. I overthink all the time. And so when I realized I can kind of use that and distract people to get them back into their body and into the joy of it all, then that's when the magic happens. And I think it needs to be happening in business much, much more. So for me, I tie everything together, what I've learned in the past 10 years, into this virtual photography where it's fun. It is very creative. It's very self-explorative, but it still works in the parameters of what a successful business strategy can look like and should look like, because it isn't really an effective strategy if you just listen for all the algorithm changes, if you listen to all of the noise and the tips and then the advice that you get online, and there's a lot, and then you just copy and paste it. That never made sense to me. I have never understood working with a template. And you can tweak it a little bit, but for me it's like another box. I hate boxes. And like with coaches, for instance, they come with this tried and tested approach, and you just need to apply it the way they want. If you fail, then that's on you. And I don't know about you, but I hate consistency in a way that just drains my soul, my creative impulses, because we need to grow as humans, but then our business has to grow along that. And we forget that, because then we put ourselves into the boxes. We're like, oh yeah, this worked before, so I'm just going to take more of these kinds of photos, create this kind of content, and then it becomes a chore, and all of the content is really boring. You're bored, everybody's bored, and it just looks very expertly. And then I feel like we're having this kind of contest online, as with the hustle culture, we're also doing it with the content culture. Like, look, I can do the same thing, but better, and then everybody looks the literal same. I look at websites, I look at social media, and people are just not themselves. And I'm really, really good at talking to people and reading people. And I can't get it from most websites and social media accounts, because people don't actually show up as themselves. You talk to them like in this setting, and then you suddenly realize, oh, they're this and they're that and this adjective, and they're fun and they're serious. I would have not known. So basically you're wasting everybody's time. And it's not effective marketing. And I want to circle back to also what you said with people not really being themselves and then hiding, because it needs to be polarizing. If you truly show up as yourself, which is scary, it needs to split people, because you need those people who don't like your vibe to leave, to go far away. If they see my background, which I painted, which you nicely pointed out, it's pink and it's yellow. And I was very conscious, because I like those colors. I want to be surrounded by those colors. I don't want to hate those colors. So now they're my brand. And if somebody shows up and they want a steely gray and they want a very narrow and very strategic approach, that's not me. They can go somewhere else. There's plenty of other fish in the sea. And the people who love the weird and crazy and the kind of disruptive creative energy that I bring, into your business, they will see it from afar because my content is bordering on the kind of weird. I'm eccentric and I own it. And it is necessary to disrupt people and make them shake it up a little bit because that's how innovation works. That's how you grow. And again, tied to strategy, that's A/B testing. If you want to make it reasonable, you need to try new things to see what works because you cannot just predict things. All right. And so how does all of that tie in with photography? Well, you need to show up to be seen. How are you seen? Sure, you can write a blog post. You can, send out the newsletters. You should also like do networking, obviously. But any kind of visual work you put out there is a visual business card. It's the first impression you give off. And that's why branding and design is so important. People are getting all of the information from your vibe, from your style, from your colors, and the font and all of that. But then with visuals, they see your smile, the way you carry yourself, and they instantly know more about you. Because especially if you're an entrepreneur, small business, you work with other people and people work with people. So if they're working with this perfect robot person, well, most people feel a bit scared. You don't quite know what it would be like to talk to them and work with them one-on-one. Again, maybe might be mismatched, and a photo can portray the vibe like, oh, it would be really fun to work with them because they're a bit loose and creative and fun, or they look like they know what they're doing. They're very strict and very like teacher-like, and I kind of need that right now, somebody telling me what to do. Like, you can get a lot of information if it's presented very consciously, and a good photographer knows how to tell the story in a frame, and a good photographer also knows how to not put it on you to be in that moment thinking of all of the different variables. You just need to be yourself, and it's like, I'm a director to help you bring it out, but not to help you act. You're just you.
Yeah. I love it. I recall that moments we've tried to have a photo shoot with my husband. He's worse than me. I'll go in and I'm like, how can this not be so hard? And pause and breathe and smile. And I'm like, why is this so hard? And I start to feel like I am doing things I wouldn't normally do. And when the photos come out, usually I'll tell him, you know what, from now onwards, you take my photos. Oh, I do selfies. Like every time I go into a photo shoot, I hate the pictures. I'm like, why do we have to spend money for me to look worse? Because every time I go with my husband, we take a camera, he takes the pictures randomly, or we just go around in the bush, whatever. The pictures look more like me. And so I like them. And so I like for him to take the pictures. But he's obsessed with this idea that I have to have professional pictures. And every time we go to a studio and spend money, I hate every picture. And I'm like, you know what, dude, this is it. I am not going to take professional pictures again because they all look horrible. But it is worse for him because every time we get in the studio, he'll take 3 pictures and he'll be like, I have a headache, I need to move out. And I'm like, what's wrong? I feel sick. I'm like, dude, you come for pictures, you feel sick. It's like, you don't understand. I have a temperature, I'm sweating.
Well, the mind is tricky.
I have a headache, and I'm like, is this code photophobia? And it's always funny because he literally gets sick in that moment. And when we leave, he gets fine. And so to your point, you feel like you're shrinking, your energy is changing, you have to do poses you would never, like, it's so uncomfortable. And if I could not understand how it's done and somehow it could get done, like if somebody could just take pictures of me randomly without telling me, I think that would be something that I love, because then I am not trying to be something. And I think to your point, really what I find is that people want to be experts, look like experts, show up as experts, which is fine, but people buy from people. And so if you portray that you're this serious and, flawless, I may not buy from you because I like normal people who are I don't know. There's a program I bought, and literally you had to take pictures that look too expensive to, like, you needed to look too expensive that people can't afford you. And I'm like, why would I do that? Why would I do that? And then I can't really relate to all these things, because there's a guy, his name is Taki Mall. He's a coach of coaches. I recall one time I was looking for a coach and I moved through maybe 15 people. And then my husband saw Taki on a video. Now, Taki is the most disorganization person, like the most disorganized person they can send you on this planet to bring. And I love Taki. I think he's amazing. But this was Taki. If Taki, you're seeing this, I am saying that because I actually respect and love your work and I think you're amazing. So this was Taki. He's holding his phone. It's upside down. He's in a trench. He's creating a video and you can only see like a part of his head. And it's like, hey, Taki, go here. And what I wanted to do is, so I hope this is helpful. Meanwhile, like part of his ear is out. He's in a trench. The camera is like this. So my husband sees him and says, I got you expert. And I'm like, really? And we'd gone through like 20 people and I was like, no, too polished. Nah, too much of a guru. Nah, know it all. Like I was like, I don't want those people. And he literally said, I got your guru. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, this is the guy for you. He's like, watch. And the guy's in the trenches, it's falling down. The camera is podcast equipment. The guy is like upside down. I'm like, wow, yeah, I need to hire this guy. And that was my decision to join Taki's program because he was just himself and he was just doing the video and he held the camera upside down and he was in a trench. And I'm like, wow, who does this? Yeah. This guy is the real deal. And that's how I chose him. And so I wanted to kind of say that because we seem to think that people want the portrayed expert, perfect version of the whole thing. But really, people are just looking for human beings. They're looking for those flaws that allow them to be imperfect. They're looking for the person, the whole package. And they're not necessarily looking for those, professional A to Z of you. This is not to say that people should put their heads down, but I think there is a point in just being you and letting everything go. But then we don't know how to be us. We don't know how to take pictures without trying to look slim or funny or funky. And so it needs somebody like you who can take all that stress away and literally allow us to kind of just be or do the bare minimum and get pictures we can use for social media for years. Anyway, that's me. Like I get so stressed every time I think about it.
And I think that's really important to know that you know that, because, well, there's so many different types of photographers out there. Like, I feel like for you, it should be somebody following you around, like those candid documentary style photographers, where you're just like, following you around town or like in the office, just like observing you and then just like take these photos and like, hey, look at me. Like, what do you think of this? And like, I don't know, just give you some prompts so you don't feel like you're being observed and staged, but you're actually just being directed. And it's still obviously a sort of artificial construct if you do the photo shoot and if you know that there is somebody watching you and like taking those photos. But the mindset is so important, which is why your husband suffers so much, because his brain is like, this is scary, this makes us uncomfortable, and so your brain will trick your body into having all of these very visceral emotions, and that looks terrible in all the photos. Like, it doesn't matter how good the photographer is, if your mindset is already on alert. That's why it's always like, take time out, let's just chill right now, and my approach, because with virtual photography, to like bring that back, how this works, because most people have never heard of it, is basically I can take photos with you right now. We're on different continents and I can still do the photo shoot, because you only have a phone and Wi-Fi for it to work. A tripod would be great, but you can also use a human to hold the phone for you. And then through an app, I will remotely connect with your camera app and then just sit here and like press release. But it's more than that, obviously, because I can also tweak a little bit, but I direct you. So for you, it's like a phone conversation. You can hear my voice in the room. Your camera is pointing at you and that's all you see. You don't see the screen. You don't know what is going on at all. You just have to trust the process. And that way, while you still know you're being observed and taken pictures of, you don't see it. So it doesn't feel real, really. It just feels like you're having a phone conversation and then you just do things. And because you don't see me, I can't show you what I want you to do. I have to come up with different ways to make you do it. And then usually if I give very specific directions, it will never be interpreted the way I want it to. So we just laugh because it's like you like take the thing on the left and then they use the right hand and you're like, no, no, my left. Like, what's your left? And then you have this weird dancing of awkwardness, which shakes people already out of this stiffness. So like that's intentional. I'm awkward. I'm using it as my little tool. Like here you get my awkwardness. But also I am a talker. I'm a very visual, creative person. And so to get people into their body and into this playful mood is, again, by being disruptive. So I will make up stories on the go. I will be like, you're now a princess in a shiny pink suit. What are you going to do? Do you want to go to your courtroom and like announce it's National Pizza Day? And you're like, well, I don't know. Like, so what's the topping of the pizza today? And you're like, I don't know. And while you're thinking, I'm taking these photos of like you thinking about pizza. Maybe you like the pizza, maybe you don't. Like, let's talk about chocolate. You want to make a national factory for chocolate, but it's gonna be a twist. What's the twist? And you're like, and so make you embody things. So I'm just like point at the people, like declare it's National Pizza Chocolate Day. And then people, so instead of me telling them point at the ceiling or whatever, they do it naturally and it feels more organic in the way they embody it. And if I'm like, oh, now you have to like fight a dragon, like your body changes. Like now you have to think real hard. You're in a meeting. And like, oh, so I'm just painting these scenarios and tapping into your inner child, basically, because that is really the you that is super creative, that is playful, that goes with whatever's thrown your way. And, we need to connect with that more. So I found a lot of people actually, when I did these photo shoots, have pointed out that it's a sort of healing to have these sessions where it's for business, but it's so different to what you do in your day to day that you will actually be completely in the zone for that, not necessarily a flow state, which would be nice, but like you're challenged, but you're so fixated on what is going on. It is so different, but it's also fun. And, it's going to like be really cool. And you have this big reveal because you don't know what the photos will look like, because there's different ways I edit them. So it could be a normal photo shoot where we explore different angles. Like sometimes I will let you put the camera down and pretend as if you're like flying over it, stepping on it. Like at one point I had this DJ, we did a photo shoot in her backyard in California. And I told her to step to this tiny lemon tree, step into the lemon tree, like really, like almost hug the branch, and like hold the phone in between all of the lemons, pointing it down at her. And so we had this very almost intimate photo shoot where you can see the foreground blurred, and then there's the background with more lemons, and she's just like laughing because it's so weird and silly, and it's beautiful. It's like you're playing hide and seek, and those photos really captured her personality, and like with the colors as well, because she had fiery red hair and then the yellow lemons, they looked really beautiful in the composition. There's all of these little details a photographer thinks about, like the framing, composition, the lighting, the colors, where you direct the eye and all of that, right? Because with the phone camera, you don't have as much range to manipulate the lens, the camera, like depth of field. You are much more limited. So it's really about interpreting it in a creative way. And because before I did like 10 years of content marketing, and I started out in the travel industry. So I would travel to different countries around the world and work with tourism, companies or destinations that would want me to talk about what their business does, which is like, here's a pretty place, come visit us, It's just like, how do you make people do this? Because there's so much content out there. And, especially you'll have to spend a lot of money to go to pretty places. And I would come up with making mini movies and like telling stories in like one frame where I would just, it can excite people of getting in that mood, and they're just like in this awe and this curiosity which we have as children. Everything's like fascinating, like, oh my god, this is different. And with travel it's much more easy, but it's a lot of variables that come at you can't control. The sunlight, the people, maybe the crowds, they just suddenly appear and now everybody's in your photo. Or maybe your equipment gets damaged by somebody walking backwards. And so all of these restraints that I've learned to work around, I now use in the virtual photography, because I cannot reach through the screen to adjust it. I have to work with what I get and how receptive you are to all of the directions, and also how your eye is for framing things, for looking for details. And the more and more we get into a photo shoot, people also kind of co-create with me. They come up with like, can we try this corner? Can I like get my cat? And I was like, yes, show me the cat, show me the corner, like touch the frame, like look at that, sit on the ground, sit on the chair, sit on the table, like, let's just try different things and just snap, snap, snap. And so in usually half an hour, we're usually done with photos. And I take like 300 photos an hour easily, which helps me have, statistically more of a good shot, because with phone camera, there might be delay. And yeah, so you just hear me snapping away and you're like, what is she taking a photo of? Because sometimes it's in those imperfect moments or motions when you just don't even consciously put on this pose that you get these beautiful memories that then portray a certain sense, right? Like when you look at photos of your loved ones where they just laugh, and usually people like don't like their laughter, like, oh, I'll delete it. And you just look at it, and you're like, you're beautiful, mom. Like, oh, what do you mean? Right? It's those imperfect moments. And I think the more and more we do that is one of the transformations, not just the inner child that appears, but also when you look at your own photos and you start to embrace how other people see you, because to be seen is also to be loved. Like that's what I realized, because especially when I did the travel, I had nobody to take photos of me. I was by myself, and learned how to take my own photos, because everybody complained if I was even there, because I wasn't in the frame. I'm like, duh, obviously, because I was holding the camera, and people wanted to see me. And I realized I had a hard time tapping into those memories, because I couldn't even see any kind of my emotional reactions to places. Like that factor really was missing. It was just all of these places that had no personality as such. Sure, you can capture beautiful landscapes and beautiful flowers and trees and people and culture, but it's there without you. Like it exists before you, it exists after you didn't make a dent. It's a pretty photo. Maybe you're not even that good a photographer, so like it's an okay photo, right? And so what makes the difference is you being in it and your reaction to it, the way you carry yourself. Like if I look at the photos, I'm like, oh, I look very tired. And then I remember that day, like all of the things that went wrong, but like the payoff at the end with the sunset on the mountain, or I just look disheveled, or I look like so happy but sunburned. Like there's a story to it and these emotions. And then if you just think about it, sometimes it's the only memory you have of people you met that one time, or even with your family, they will one day be gone, but the photo will remain with you. And so photography is really, really this treasure we can have of memories, of people, of moments, or of kind of, gemstones we can tap into, and the energy of the moment of creation. Almost like if you want to, feel badass, then you just look at one of those photos where you felt badass and you look pretty good, and you look at it and you're like, yeah, I did that before, I can do it again. Right? And so if you want to embody that for your business for certain ways, make it strategic. Like what is the photo going to do for you, which is what I then built my business now around, because I've done so many different things while I was doing the content and was working on that. As anybody would probably know who works in kind of digital content marketing, there's like so many different jobs tied to that. And so I dabbled in a lot of things, but I realized it makes no sense to just niche down and specialize. There's need for that, but you need also the big picture. And I'm the big picture thinker, where I'm like, okay, you can ask me for a photo shoot, you can ask me for a video edit, you can ask me for a brand audit. Why though? Like, why do you need it? Where's it going to live? What's it going to do for you? It needs to be tied to the strategy, it needs to be tied to your branding and to your person. Because if your website is all in pink and yellow, and then we do a photo shoot and you wear this weird purple, it doesn't fit, right? Maybe it doesn't even fit you because you don't like that shirt, but somebody told you that looks professional. So no, cut that out. If you have these beautiful texts, this amazing copy by somebody who might be really good at capturing you, that's great. But if the photos don't extend to that, capture that vibe that the copywriter got about your vibe, then people are also very confused, and you don't want to confuse people because they will leave. They will leave. You're wasting their time, right? And so ultimately what it comes down to is knowing yourself, and that is not easy. And as you evolve and as you grow and as you do your shadow work, that changes all the time. So I am of the belief that your business needs to adapt to that as you grow with you. So, and that with virtual photography, you can do that in different steps, like in baby steps. You can just try this approach. You know, when you say, I don't like photography, I don't want to put on the makeup. Well, let's try different approaches where you just stand by the window and look outside into the distance, give me side profile. Like maybe you're working at the desktop and like I focus on the plant in front of you. So you're just blurry, you know, like there's different ways to interpret a person, still capture an essence of the thing. And as you keep doing photography, so you can have content, so you can show up online, so you don't only have text. That way you learn what you like, you learn what you're comfortable with, you learn more technique if you just pay attention, and you can also learn what the audience responds to. And again, that might change, the algorithm might change, but if you keep doing it, which is why I also offer like a retainer program, not just one-off photo shoots, so you can constantly adjust, learn about yourself, learn about your business, try out new things, be visible, but do it on your own terms, to circle back to always like, what do you want? What feels good to you right now? Because I don't want to dictate anything. You're not my doll. You're not my model that I can prop and arrange and, just do that. I don't like that I'm the expert who's there to guide you, but I'm not like a coach. I'm more like your mentor, your creative sparring partner. And I found that even just in a conversation, because I said like I'm really good with hearing what people aren't saying and feeling people out where they're hiding, because I'm really good at that myself. And that was actually what brought me to all of this journey now, because I used to be so broken and people pleasing that it really wrecked my health, physical and mental. I was just such a shell of a person because I optimized my own self. Like I even looked up where to do my hair parting, because that has different psychological interpretations on people subconsciously. I'm just like, oh, like optimize the hair color and like the side parting and like the colors. And like it was horrible. It was just so manufactured and so bland, and I hated everything. But I felt like I needed to, because nobody hired me after graduating with multiple degrees, learning multiple languages, and like having work experience. I was constantly told, what can you even do? And I looked at them like, what can't I do? What do you mean? What more do I need to do to prove myself? And so I tried and tried, and people took advantage of it, until I snapped. And then I just moved myself to Australia in anger and despair, to completely uproot myself and restart my life, which is when I realized that authenticity then healed me, because I was an emotional mess. People asked me, how are you? Like you do. And I would just start crying. I was a mess. And these random people just held space for me. They let me talk. They helped me find my dreams again and supported me. And then they just, one person just printed business cards and then they just left. One person helped me do media kit. One person did like help me coach on how to pitch people. And they just did that and then they left. Right? There was no expectations to it. And in that moment when I realized those conversations and just people listening and supporting and hearing you fully were healing. That's what I really needed. And that gave me permission, which I didn't need. Nobody needs permission to figure themselves out, to, value yourself. You're amazing. But, it is so hard in society to own yourself, because there's always these boxes people want you to be in, always the ways society tells you how to be better and more productive and more of a worker bee to fit other people's agenda, and to not rock the boat, and all of these stories that make it really hard to be yourself. And that in and of itself is almost revolutionary, when you just show up and you're like, I'm here, I'm taking up space, especially as a woman. I have these big, bold dreams. I do things a little bit differently. I have a lot of questions and ask why, and so people will instantly be like, oh my God, she's trouble. And I learned that that's okay. And that's really good if you actually own it, because then people will tell you what they feel about you. It's not comfortable for sure, but it will tell
I want
you
to chip
who.
in at that. So, Annemarie, who exactly is virtual photography for, or what problem is it solving for us? I know for me, it's hell going for photography. So for sure, if I can replace the studios with this, I will. But I know that there is a place and time for professional studio. And this, to me, sounds like the free fall, your thing, your daily content captions. But give me kind of some idea of who is this for and what is its place in content creation or brand building or authenticity in itself.
Of course. So first and foremost, like you touched upon, is for people who want to show up online and they already do a lot of photography, like content. They post their pictures, their selfies, their professional photos regularly, and they need to know that they have content lined up so they can focus on their actual business, right? But creating content, especially if it's by yourself, or if you just make it a whole content day, going to a studio, drive there, like set it up, that takes out a whole day at least. And so it's for people who actually don't want to leave the house for multiple reasons. Maybe they're an introvert, maybe they're so busy, maybe they have a tight schedule, or maybe they just really, really feel comfortable at home and not that comfortable in the studio, right? And so they get the benefit of it being very time efficient, of it being more relaxing, and of it being a lot of content in a really short amount of time, where it's, very streamlined to the process, but it's also very flexible because sure, you can plan your content photo shoot in the studio in advance, but virtual photography is very flexible. So you can do a shoot like every week. And as your offers evolve, maybe there's also seasonal updates. You can be really quick to update that in the photos this way, because you can always have a quick photo shoot, half an hour, instead of having like 3 hours of doing the photo shoot by yourself. So that is pretty good. Like, very strategic. And I realized, yeah. Sorry, I was like, shouldn't ramble.
Okay, so I think I get it. I need some people just spend too much time talking, thinking, planning for a photo shoot. If I want photos, I don't have a full day for that. And so for me, 45 minutes, if I can get some photos in, I'm down. And so I think I love what this can do because, for example, on Facebook, when you have a picture before the copy, that post performs better always. And so I've tried to do the Twitter style and people don't see them. They don't stand out. They just disappear. And I've tried to do them because I'm like, I have no picture. I have 3, maybe 4 pictures I like. And I'm like, how many times am I going to use these pictures? And so if I had different pictures that I actually liked, I would have a picture in every post. But I can't always do that because I'm like, what picture am I going to use?
Yeah, and you can tie that to the photo shoot. You can do, if you plan out your content already, I don't know, like some people are more intuitive and spontaneous, other people are very strategic. They have their content plan laid out. And that way you can use photography to really strategically underline what is being said in the text, draw the attention, and to actually embody what the text says. You can combine that obviously with, a template, put a text on it, whatever, but it will capture the scene, it will paint the picture. And as opposed to just taking a selfie, which I see with Gen Z, is a lot happening on LinkedIn now, like this trend getting away from the sterile power pose, suited up photos that you see in headshots a lot. People are just more in the moment, like, oh, I'm going to this coffee shop, I'm holding this mug, and I'm like taking this photo from this high angle. And again, because you're taking the photo by yourself, the energy is very flat because you have to be physically still for it, and you have to like freeze your face in a smile, and so the energy is not there, and it doesn't give the personality you think it does. And so if you have something lined up, you can capture different scenes in the same room. Angle is really good with photography. Do it on a couch, do it on the floor, sit on the desk, sit by the door, like open a door, go into the garden. You have all of these different places that kind of simulate a range of you holding space, and it gives people more things to look at, so you don't always have to use the same photo again and again. Right? And so you get a lot of different visuals that again you can try out for yourself. You can see what you like the more, because it's all information for you to optimize your business and how you show up in business, and to learn how photography actually can work for you, how it can make you feel a certain way, and how you can also take back the control. Because I think when you say you don't really like photography, it's part of not being able to show yourself, but also not being able to own yourself in that way, where you're suddenly at the mercy of the photographer and you give your power away to them, like, make me feel pretty, and then you just, release that without having that agency of like, let's do something together. I have ideas. It's, you interpret it through your expertise, but it's something that both people
that's
are involved with.
I want to kind of get you there. So what you're saying is really what you do is helping us understand how to guide the photography person. Even though what to do studio pictures, you can be more like, I have some ideas.
Yes.
I would like
Don't micromanage, but also we need information. It's one of my biggest pet peeves when people are just completely giving me all of the creative control, and then they say, I trust you. I love that you trust me, but ultimately what people are not saying is, I have expectations. I want you to meet them, but I will not give you the information. And then they expect me to mind read, and you can bet my ADHD brain will completely interpret everything differently than you would have ever guessed every single time. And so I want both parties to be happy about the process, where I have something to work with that doesn't give me anxiety, and you know exactly what the outcome will be. You just don't know the how. And this is the bridge we can gap, and this is why I said photography is also communication, because you work at it together. You say, okay, this is the vibe, the feeling I want people to get, or like, this is the action I want them to take. And then the photographer can then creatively interpret that, and you do it together. Like, how about this? How about this? And then you give me information. Yes and no. I don't like this. Maybe let's explore this. I do not want to tell you what to do. And then your mindset will instantly shut down and you feel uncomfortable. I'm like, no, let's just do something else then. But you need to give me information. This is like a dialogue, right? So you have an expert to help you interpret what you want, but you have to also own your power and what it is that you want and who you are. And if you don't know, also communicate that so it can be more of an exploration. So both parties are empowered, right? And so those images are much more powerful as a consequence.
So let me ask, if I come to you and I have no idea who I am, I've grown up in society, I know maybe there's a power pose, there's an Obama pose, I don't know, there's a Trump pose, who knows? And then that's all I know, like, I am supposed to pose. If I come with that studio mindset to you, what needs to happen before the photo show for me to kind of get an awareness of what may look good? Because for me, like, I have maybe 4 pictures I like. And so when I go for photography, I'd be like, I like this picture and this picture and this picture and this picture. I do not know what you can do, but I love these pictures, and anything close to this will probably be fine. I am not trying to look the best I can, just make me look more of me. So the more casual, the more laid back, the more normal I look, the better for me. The less editing has to be done on my face, the better for me. So I kind of tell the person, I don't want my nose looking sharp or whatever when it's not in real life. And so I said, the closer I look like me, the better the pictures. And I don't know, because they usually end up saying, hey, do this and this. I'm like, yeah, that's exhausting. I don't really like it. So what is wrong with me when I go for photos? Why do I feel that there is too much stuff I never wanted to do that I was made to do? And why do my pictures turn out not even great? Like the last photo shoot I did, I think they had 150 pictures and I only got one. I thought it was such a waste of time.
There's multiple
walk me through that
there,
process. So. Walk me through what I
yeah.
can do to improve my experience with any photographer from there, because I feel like there is something that is inherently wrong with studios when I enter those studios.
You just weren't with the right fit. Well, the first most important thing is that the photographer is also a creative, and you can't go to a photographer expecting to do things exactly the way you want them if that's not even in their portfolio. Like, you just look at what they have and you're like, oh, I could see myself in this kind of vibe, these colors, this setup, or I cannot, because you can't dictate them to work outside of their visual style, right? So like that's where the information comes in with photos and videos. You need to kind of internet stalk them a little bit and see what people have said about them. If they have videos, that's why I also like video testimonials, where people talk about you. This is how they felt. This is how they directed me. And then maybe they talk in their own videos. And then you listen to them. How does your body feel about what they say? Like, do you feel, oh, this is interesting? Or do you like, I like how they talk, And so you need to be very honest with yourself. Like, is this a fit? Does this feel aligned? And then you can jump on a call with them. And for me, the way I try to get people really comfortable and also myself gauge if you're actually a vibe, because the way I do it very specifically is so unique. It doesn't fit everybody. Like with any kind of business, right? You need to not cater to everybody, but to your specific audience. And for me, it's always in the talking. I need to talk to you. I need to hear you say things out loud. So you hear yourself saying these things out loud. And that's part of the self-exploration. When you come to me and you're like, I don't know what I want to portray. I don't know who I am right now. Well, let's talk about it. Let's just get you talking to hear it, and then to be directed like in this podcast interview where somebody else will see you much more clear than you could ever, because you're in your head 24/7. You know all of the depths and all of the different thoughts and different ways and doubts. And I, especially as a complete outsider, I come at you completely fresh eyes. Like, this is what you feel like to me. I mirror it back to you. Is this what you want to portray? And you're like, no. I'm like, okay, why not? Or like when you show me those photos, I liked those photos. Why? What did you like about the photos? Is it the colors? Is it the light? Is it your smile? Is it your body? Is it like, what is it? Let's talk about it. So I get an idea of where you are, where you want to go. And you also get that channeled back to you for you to reflect on. So it's this, again, this communication where I'm like just checking in, that it's so hard to do by yourself, but with another person, they can really help you be a sounding board and help you bring out different things out of you that you would have never actually even valued, because so many times we take our own skills and charms for granted because they're easy. And another person will then just tell you about it. And you're like, oh my God, I love your smile. I love how you match your lipstick to your color. Like, that's so amazing. I love your brooch. And you're like, oh, well, that's nothing. I'm like, don't say it's nothing. This is amazing. You're like, oh, is it? Is it really? And so you get information that you don't get from a mirror. And to also circle back to you saying you don't look good in photos, a lot of people say that. And first off, with selfies, the distance to your camera is usually way too close. So anybody looks distorted with a selfie camera. Your hairline disappears, your face is so much slimmer, not in a good way. Your features are not like they would be in a mirror. And I don't just mean the inversion. Step back from the camera, like sit down, step back 2 meters. You suddenly have a whole more body to it. It's just the different technicalities of how to frame a person. And that's why, real photography with, real life photography with like the actual equipment and the physical space and all of that cannot replace virtual photography, but it can be complementing it, where they have this equipment to make it all like creamy background and to light you differently and to give you more rounded face and stuff like that. But ultimately, when you say it's not something that I look good in, it's just the technicalities. Because oftentimes, like, of course you don't look good because of all of these technical factors. It's not you're beautiful. It's just how you capture it that is not conducive to making you look beautiful. So there needs to be this this release in your mind from, okay, I don't look good in this photo, so I don't look good in all photos, so I don't look good at all. That is wrong. It's just, I don't look good in this photo. That's it. No judgment. And
I think I look good in pictures which we take when we go with my husband and we have a phone or camera. And
yeah, because you also have this dynamic.
I think that when I am just, when I choose a moment and I go, wow, it's a good time for a picture, and I say, right, or when he just takes a picture when I'm not seeing. But I think for me, it's more of me deciding, oh, this is a good moment for a picture. And then he takes it and it just, I don't know, it's just a moment. It's a memory. It's
You're
just,
mentally prepared. You're like,
mm,
hit me, do it. You know, that's
mm.
different than going to the photographer and being like, I hate it here. Mindset.
When I go to the studio, I am already thinking, wow, okay, all right. And then they start, do this, do this. I'm like,
Mm,
why? You know, like, why do I have to do,
yeah.
smile?
Well,
And I'm like, smile. Why don't you just tell me something funny? Like, why are you saying smile? Like, I don't know how to manufacture a smile. But if somebody
mhm.
was, like talking something funny, I think, I don't know. I think for me, I kind of need a different
I
prompt.
think you need a warm-up period where you just chill
Mm,
with the photographer and like get this report going, get this feeling of like, let's not dive in right away. Let's just, do a warm-up. Let's just get comfortable. Let's just
mm,
take away the fear around this entire process. And it's again, like different photographers do things differently. So it's really important to
mm,
check in what you need. If that's what you need, then there's a lot of photographers that already fall through. And so the way you can hone that and train yourself to again stand up like, hey, I need you to have a chill period with me, and then we need to talk. I need to tell me what you want me to do without me constantly being the puppet doing it. There's like a different way of what you need and how you can communicate that, and if they're receptive to it or if they're not a fit for that.
mm.
But that's important.
What give me the process of this virtual photography? Because some of us have never heard of it. I've seen people say they took it virtually, and I'm like, okay, really? What is the process? What is happening in this virtual photography? Give me kind of maybe step
Yeah,
one,
the rundown.
three, or give me the process of how this works. How does this work? Is it a Zoom thing? Is it an app thing? Is it, how does the photography work? Give me a good explain to me how it works, because I have no idea.
Well, so you download an app. It's either
Mm,
Shutter app or
mhm,
Close app,
mhm,
and you can just Google them from the App Store. You get them for free, so you can already try it out with your friends if you want to. And that app will give you your personal ID, which is a couple of numbers, and
mm,
you just give that to your photographer. And then once you're ready for the photo session, after talking it out and doing, I always have the talking session up front. So I get really clear on what the vision is, what their vibe is, if they have ideas. Sometimes I have a Pinterest board or I share mine. So we already have an idea, a mood board to work with. But usually it never works out exactly as, you don't want to copy somebody completely, but also it's this more intuitive moment, right? And then we have the session. So then you open this app, Shutter app, and then I will be at my laptop wherever I am and just ask you to connect with me. And you say yes. And then we're connected. It's like a Zoom call, but it's not Zoom because you don't want to take a screenshot. That's not good quality. And so this app will make it remotely accessible for me to hit the camera button. So to just like take the photo, like tap the screen kind of thing, right? I can adjust the lighting a little bit, make it darker, make it lighter. There's not all that much I can do, but it's really in the direction. So for you, since I use the back camera, which is better,
mm,
you will only see the back of your phone. So you don't see the screen at all. And you only hear my voice floating in the room. You put me on speaker and then I tell you to go step back so you look better. And then I tell you to do this thing, to do that thing, think of that, think of this. So I just talk, 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 and you just interpret whatever I say in a way that feels good for you.
mhm,
And try out new things. Maybe you ask, oh, can we change room? Can we change outfits? And I'm like, sure. And you also have the control to stop me switching the cameras, because I have the control of your camera app in your phone. That means I can go back camera, front camera, telezoom, whatever camera is installed in your phone,
oh,
which
so
is also
you're
why
using my phone, so you
yeah,
have
your
control of
phone.
my phone, and that's what you're using to take the picture.
Yes, you have the camera app
Oh,
on your phone. That's what I then control from afar.
mm. So you're using my
Hmm.
own camera to take my pictures.
Yeah.
Interesting. Mm,
Yeah, and so that's why it's good to have a tripod or a friend who can just hold the phone for you and then follow the directions to tilt it in different ways. And that way it can easily be uploaded to the cloud. So I can then edit the photos and give them to you really fast. Usually like 2 working days. Usually I'm faster than that. So it's your phone's camera, and that's what also dictates the quality. That's why I say no phones before 2020, because the camera is just not as good. And that's why I also, in those calls up front, we'll talk about the lighting situation. We want natural light. So if you have a good lit room, if you want to go into the garden, as long as you've got Wi-Fi on your phone, we are good to go. That's really how it works. And then, we have the session, take the gazillion photos. The app uploads it into the cloud for me to download. I edit them, clean them up a little bit, and then you get them back and you've got photos.
So how many photos can I get for 30 minutes?
Well, it depends on what the concept is, but usually I do like different ways of like 5 or 15 or 30. If we can do like a whole hour, we can even do more than 30 photos, but you just have to make sure that it makes sense for having like 30 photos with like different looks. So so usually it's 30 for an hour. Yeah.
When I first talked to you, you said a lot of people's work is manufactured. A lot of people's work looks plastic. And you started your work to help people bring more authenticity to their brands. Yes. Can you help me talk more to that? Because we might be manufactured and we don't even know it. And so like some of us think, oh, this is me and this is me at my best. But what you see is we don't have the energy that we have. You think we are funnier. You think we are more, I don't know, whatever the thing is, you feel like we're not doing justice to our brand because we're showing one side of it and we're not telling the whole story. And I want you to talk to that piece and how spontaneous photography or this kind of new adventure, I think I would call it a new adventure, because people who are definitely not going to be for this, how it could help us have a more authentic brand in that line of thought. Take me there, because I felt like you had something valid, that we could be inauthentic and not even know that we are. So take me there, your thought process in helping people bring more authenticity to their tribe.
Yeah, because the first impressions really matter. So if you put yourself out there and you're just always the expert and you're directed by other people, and then they meet you in real life or in a video call, usually what I find is that there is this discrepancy, and it's kind of jarring to see a different person suddenly in front of you. You're like, oh, I had this expectation of you. And obviously you can't control how people see you, but you can still influence that impression in a way that feels connected to you. So you're an extension of yourself everywhere you go. So people don't have this weird business catfish moment where you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't expect you to be here and I don't know how to feel about that, which is where you could lose people. And then at the same time, if you don't show up as yourself in all of your glory and all of the, flaws, but also the beauty, how will the people who would love that, who would eat that up, find you if they can't see you? Right. And so you might actually attract the people who are not aligned with you anymore or ever, because you thought you needed to show up a certain way and you copied somebody or you followed somebody's guidelines and template on it. And then that's who you're attracting. And now you're wondering, why do I only get difficult clients who like micromanage me and tell me all the things that I need to be doing instead of allowing me the expertise, because you showed up as that person who is so precise and who is like, that way they want, if that's not even aligned with you. So you need to be super cautious about how you land, which another person outside of you can channel and reflect back to you. And then also help you figure out what you actually want to portray. And that's by checking in with yourself, who you are, how you land with other people, and what you maybe want to explore of your own personality that ties to your business. Because as entrepreneurs and small business owners, sure, we have like working hours and free time, but it's much more blurred lines. And often we shouldn't have to separate ourselves that much, that your business persona is a completely different human than who you are. That feels very soul sucking. That doesn't feel very good if you live a double life. And so you might want to question if you can make it more comfortable for you, more sustainable, so you don't lead into burnout, because masking that person is so much time and energy investment that doesn't ultimately really serve you and might have a negative effect on your health as well, right? But also you need to enjoy your business. And if you enjoy it, that is also attracting people. If they really see that you love it, they're like, oh, I want that too. So you need to be having fun. And if you're just acting, maybe you're not having fun. So authenticity, I found is good.
I wonder if there is a line between showing up as just being good enough for your audience versus manufacturing a character. Like I've always asked people, if people found you offline, would you be the same person? And I have been challenged because most of my clients believe that they're being judged by what they post, what their food looks
and we
like.
are, regardless.
What their picture looks like, how expensive their outfits look like. And I'm like, okay, but in real life, do you care how expensive your dress is? Because in real life, I don't care. If I have a jumper for $50 or in real life, I don't care. And so I could decide that this podcast is going to be a podcast where every time I have an expensive dress and I am made up and stuff, but that may be good for the viewer, but it's not good for me because I can't keep that up. And in real life, if I'm just a jumper jeans girl, that's what you're gonna get. But I think there's also a point at which you have to respect your audience enough to show up more decently. So if you're always in your farming clothes and they have dust on them and they are ripped on each side, that's probably not the authenticity we are after. And so I'm wondering if there is a line between decent and manufactured, because I feel like there is that decent line, like, comb your hair, brush your teeth, and, appear like probably you were going for groceries or you were going to town or, something like that. And I want the person who's listening to kind of get the line, because I am not a believer that you should be polished and perfect. But I also think sometimes you can look like a joke, and no one wants to follow someone who looks like a joke. So what is this fine line between polished and manufactured with, okay, now you really look like a joke. Now you don't really respect our time. Now you really don't respect us who follow you. What's the balance there? Is it there?
I think that is part where the business strategy comes in. And I always like to take the big eagle eye view on everything, because everything is connected, right? So you need to think about, well, who you are, what you feel comfortable being, what your essence is, right? But also what your audience is, who you want to attract. Maybe you don't want to attract you as the avatar for the audience. Maybe there's a different audience. So they have a different kind of taste. They have a different kind of expectation of what they work with. You do your research on that. And then you know how to cater to that in visuals, but you need to find that sweet spot between, okay, that is me, and I can show up as me to these people. And you do that in real life anyway. Like you show up differently to your parents and to your boss and to your best friends and to the clerk at the supermarket. You already do that every day without acting really hard to portray this person. So we are multidimensional human beings. We have a range of how we show up and present ourselves. So we are totally capable of, adjusting and changing our tone and appearance and all of that. So you just need to tap into that version of yourself that shows up in a professional setting, but it's still comfortable, where it doesn't feel like it's a dress up. Like I don't need the pearls, right? I don't need to have the crisp shirt. Maybe I just do a crew neck and just a nice little jersey blazer, like maybe I'll do my hair up or down, whatever feels good for you, that can be polished and speak specifically for the audience, but still be aligned with your branding. So the colors match, so the vibe match. So it works with whatever story you want to tell. Maybe you want them to take action and urgency, so that can inform the visual and the way you show up. Maybe you shouldn't be seated. That's video. You want people to like create that action. Like maybe you should walk around, right? So like all of these details come back to who you are in different circumstances, but also how would you talk to these people? Imagine them in real life. Like if you were to a networking event, like, you wouldn't show up in a farm outfit. When would you show up in a farm outfit? Maybe if you want to disrupt, like have a guerrilla marketing kind of situation, but there's always the intent behind. the strategy, and then the audience, keep that in mind. And then you need to cross-check it with yourself. Does this feel good for me? Could I do this without it feeling icky, right? So like it always needs to come back to you, and you shouldn't use logic for that part. I think that's where people fall through the gaps, where they're like, oh, this should be logical. I should wear this suit. I should wear this, do this pose. And then they don't feel good because they talk themselves into it. That's where you should stop the logic, because you've got the strategy set up. It all works in this way. And so now interpret it in a way that makes you actually show up.
I really believe that the branding, and first, I believe that the hardest thing to try and do is be authentic. I think the easiest thing to do is just be you. Because I feel like people are lost in this place of trying to be authentic, that they end up being plastic. And I like to say, just be you. Who would you be in that situation?
And then you think about it, and then already you're lost.
I like what you said, how would you show up if there was a room and your perfect people were gathered there? Because that's really the benchmark, right? If you stopped saying these are people on the internet and they don't see me beyond the Zoom, if you had to actually appear in a room where they are gathered, because that's what we do every day when we get on Zoom, when we get on social media, there's actual people listening. So if you could quantify that as people sitting in the room, how would you show? You know?
Right. That's why I tell my stories, because I need people to be in that moment and not think about, oh yeah, this is going to be this very abstract concept of having a photo, of being seen online. What does that even mean? You know, our human brain can't even comprehend like all of the sheer numbers we can be seen by. That is scary for our nervous system. It's so scary to put yourself out there, even if you're just speaking on a teeny tiny stage. That is scary. So I need people to get away from that concept. Like, you need to have all of the back end ready, like a strategy, the purpose of it, like what is going to happen, why is it going to happen, and then when it gets to the point of like, okay, now show up, now do the photos, I need you to forget about it all, but you've prepped yourself to be already in the zone, and then just be in your body, and then follow the directions and focus on the person in front of you, or like, you know, in the space you hear with the voice, and listen to the stories. And that way it's still tied to the strategy, it's still businessy, but it will be so distant from all of the very clinical approach that you usually put on, that it feels authentic, you know? And then the more and more you do this, it becomes more authentic to you. That's what I realized when I started my photography journey, because I started with like self-portraits, right? And I can see my own transformation. The more you do it, the more you're just familiarize your nervous system with it. And then it just looks better. It's really exposure therapy ultimately.
It is,
right?
Ultimately, it's the reps. The reps have to be in. But I feel like the more in tune you are with the more you're closer to your intuition, the more you can just tell what is for you. Like, I remember when I went out to buy a wedding gown, I knew I didn't want stone on it. I knew I didn't want a modern gown. I knew I didn't want a white gown. I wanted something towards ivory, creamish. And I knew I wanted a timeless gown. Like, I knew I wanted a gown that was timeless. I knew I wanted a gown that was just fitting up and loose down. And I knew that I wanted a little, like a trail. Like, I just knew I wanted a gown that the normal person today whose wedding wouldn't pick up. And so I went in this one shop. I saw this one gown, and I said, that one. And they said, okay, we will put it in the line. Which other ones? I'm like, I just want that one. And they're like, no one comes here and tries one gown. And I'm like, well, you're looking at her right now. And they said, no, you gotta pay, I don't know, whatever they were asking, pay to try on, whether it's 1 or 10. I said, cool, here, I pay. And I said, you seriously want to try one gown? I was like, yep. I tried the gown, it was perfect. And I said, I'm buying it. And they've never understood how. But I just entered, I saw there were like 7 gowns on the floor, and I was like, that's my gown.
Yeah, that's why the concepting is so important.
It looked perfect, and I was like, this is it. Nothing else. Like, I didn't try on a second gown. And after now, I'm like, how? I'm like, well, I just knew what I wanted, you know?
And and you need to own it.
To your point, if we can't find a way to get away from what is the thing, what is the acceptable thing, what has been
Right.
trending, what did XYZ do, and kind of like dive into who we are and what we ultimately stand or don't stand for. Everything may be easier. I think the worst thing to do is to put up an appearance that brings people that are not at all aligned to where you are, who you are, how you do things. And so I like to tell people, I like to create posts like, I am not your expert. If you're looking for, and then I list all those things. And people find it funny because they're like, you're giving people reasons not to hire you. And I'm like, yeah, I really don't want you to hire me if this is what
Right.
you're looking for in a coach. And I think being you and putting out there the things that you're looking for in clients can also really be helpful. Tell me about your offerings and how you support people with this virtual experience. I think it's I don't know, it's an experience, really.
It
How
is, yeah.
Tell me how you support people back end or what the offers look like.
Right. So like there's a range, like different tires basically. So either one, they can just ask me to do a audit first if they just want to like tell me what you think of how I actually show up. Is this me? Does this actually match? And then I also do one-off photo shoots, and there's different ways I do that. Just like a regular virtual photo shoot where we can just get normal like business photos and with a little bit of a creative twist. Or I also really like creative editing. So sometimes I do like clone photography where you're in the frame multiple times so people can see all of the different hats you wear or the different sides to your personality. It's definitely eye-catching because nobody uses photos of themselves in the same frame multiple times. It's unique, right? And I also do very artistic edits where they almost look like a painting to help people really see their essence and see their greatness reflected back to them. If they're like a fairy queen with beautiful wings and a crown, or a field of poppies or orchids and writing on the tiger. I don't know, like whatever feels about their essence so they can have that confidence and that empowerment and then interpret maybe even their branding. Like, someone wants me to do like a tarot inspired photo shoot that represents their kind of spiritual business. So that will instantly give a lot of information in a photo that you usually don't see, right? And then I also offer it on a retainer basis. So like every month we have the conversations where you are, what you want to do to help you get clear and to help you get those concepts to tell you what you want. And then we can work with that and do the photo shoot. So every month there's multiple talks and virtual photo shoots. So you can have content already, you have that taken care of, all of that. You also know that there's going to be really cool creative sessions. So if you just want to do it for fun, which is, a valid reason, they're all very flexible. You just know they're coming up, and then whatever you need in that moment will do, right? And so I do that for 3 months or 6 months or 12 months. And the 12 months also involves video. So you have mini brand videos that capture your essence even more than a photo does because you talk. And then you also are exposed to what that is like to talk on video because I'm also a video editor. So I create those visuals, and then you can check in with yourself at the start of the year, in the middle, and the end, and see if you need something tweaked, right? If you want to add something, if you have a different offer. And so again, you have the content very timely, very efficiently, while also having the regular photo content, while also like having these conversations to align your branding as you grow along and have it reflected back to you. So that's the way I work.
I love it. I'll be putting links in the show notes. I think that the best way to get into Annemarie's work is to book a call with her. Do you offer a call for?
Yes, that's the best way. Absolutely. I have a website. I'm on all social media platforms. People can book a direct photo shoot with me, but I always prefer talking because that way we can see if vibe, if they like the approach and where they stand, what they need, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, so I think I'll be putting all the links, social media, a link to book a call, our website. So you can have a look, you can scroll around and have a look. I do think that this is a good window for us who are like studio. I am just an studio kind of person. I actually do not like professional stuff. Like the more I have to try, the more I don't want to do it. I like to be me. I like to be in the wilderness. I just like to be in my t-shirts and jumpers, and that's enough. Like, I like to think that people choose me for who I am, not, the dressing and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think there is a
And you can
point
get
to
to show
which
that.
I think there's a point to which people can judge you based on, how you show up. But are those my people? I think that's a question
Yeah,
that needs to be
that
asked.
is the question. Yeah. Do you actually want those people
You want
who
them?
will
Yeah.
judge you on it?
You
Or
want
you
them?
want them, you need to be repelling them by
Hmm.
showing up as yourself. It's a disservice to you to try to be so meek and people pleasing to
Hmm.
attract everybody. If you're
Hmm.
kind of lukewarm, everybody's
Hmm.
kind of halfway happy. It's not really serving you at all. And
Hmm.
sure, it is uncomfortable to put yourself out there. And especially if people tell you that they don't like what you do, but they will find you either way. You will never be everybody's cup of tea. That's okay. But at least now you know from the start that they would waste your time and you want them to leave. And you likewise want to attract the people who like you, but they need to see you to find you.
I
So
think
yeah, authenticity is of service, sure.
I think I like how you look at this, because I think branding and authenticity is when you can say, please, if you're not like this, go away. I think your ability
Yes.
to repel people is more
Yeah.
important than your ability to become everyone's vanilla flavor and bring people in. And I think the more
Yep.
you can repel the wrong person, the closer you get to the soulmate type of client. I have worked with
Yeah.
clients that were off, but I've also worked with clients that were like perfect for me. And the difference is so huge. Like, I have helped people build, and I felt like I didn't do any work because they were in alignment with my values and how I do things, and they could get direct feedback. And I've also worked with people who are sensitive, and everything had to be sugar coated. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, I hope I never
No.
sign up another person like this. And
Right.
yeah, yeah, I love.
Yeah, so sometimes even if you don't know what you want, there's always things you do not want. So start with that. Repel. I don't want people doing this. Boundary, make it clear, move on to the next. Repel, repel. And the more and more you do that, the more you learn about yourself and then can affirm that and translate that. So be polarizing. It's okay. Don't be a terrible person, but
Mm.
it's okay to be yourself and own that. It's not comfortable, but it's worth it.
I would just say stop being anything, just be you. And the person you are in and out is going to repel some people and attract some people, and
Yes.
that's okay.
Yeah, you
So,
can't do anything about it.
what
Just
would
accept.
be the last words as we're winding up for someone that is like, what your photography feels really good to me right now. I may want to try it. And they're like, but I'm not sure, they're not sure of the experience and what will happen. And it's maybe new. And they're like, yeah, I can get my head around that, but I don't know. What would be like
Yeah.
your last words of
Well,
wisdom for them?
they always can download it themselves and just try it out. But
Mm,
I also offer like a teaser session where we have like a 30-minute session,
mm,
just 5 photos, I think, and it's for 150 euros currently. So they can just experience what it's like. They have some new photos, and
mm,
then they can always decide after the fact, oh, maybe I want to continue this. So we can charge it to the whole program, and they haven't lost anything. They just signed up with a trial period, or they can just leave it as a standalone and be like, oh, I like this, maybe some other time again. I don't know. So they have the option of trying it out and seeing how it works, seeing how they vibe, and just having that experience because it is so new. Most people have never heard of it. It's not entirely like I didn't make this up. This came up in the
mm,
pandemic for obvious reasons,
mm.
but most people have not really been exposed to it. And so it's a great way to try it out and try new things, be ahead of the curve.
I like it. I can't believe it's been here since the pandemic, because I just
I
came
know. I
around
didn't know it
the
then too.
idea. Yeah. I've seen people's pictures like, it was a virtual photo shoot. And I'm like, a virtual
I mean,
photo
some
shoot.
people took it on Zoom. That's how it started, I think. And
Mm,
then somebody developed the app and, make it easier because the quality is obviously better.
mm,
But yeah, then it just kind of disappeared. And I learned about it a year ago. So for a year now, I've been really obsessed. And the more and more I do it, the more I can see how it has so many different perks and can complement your regular in-person photo shoot. You know, it's also more environmentally friendly now. I don't have to travel the world for in-person shoots. So
As
when
we
people
wind
travel
up,
with me too, like you have your photographer in your pocket, take me to Italy, take you to a conference, take me to your home. Like, isn't that great?
photographer in your pocket. That's a good way to end this. If
Yeah.
you're going, who do I share this with? Because the practice here is the way you can best support best kept secret work is to just share this expert with one person that you know would love them. Who do you know that could use a photographer in the pocket? Who do you know that can't stop taking selfies? Who do you know that could use more photos in their life? And that's the person who is taking more photos already. Who do you know that is always going for photo shoots? Who do you know that could celebrate more pictures in another creative way? There's people who are always like, I can tell right now in my family who would find this interesting because they are always in the studio taking those pictures. And I'm always like, why do these pictures look flat? Like, why always looking like the president in these pictures? And so, who do you know that is always trying to take pictures? Who do you know that is obsessed with writing content and needs more pictures? Who do you know that could use a photographer in their pocket? Because that's Annemarie. The best thing you can do for Annemarie is just share this episode with that person. Of course, as always, for you to support the calling on my heart, what you can do is you can follow, you can subscribe, you can rate, you can review, you can comment, whatever the platform you're on allows you to do. If you get engaged and you do it, the community grows. And when the community grows, I can bring my dreams to life. One of my dreams is to bring like Oprah on the show and people of that caliber on the show. And the question I need to answer is, how big is the community? And you get to decide how big the community is by your ability to subscribe and share. And I am trusting you. We are in this together. I look forward to chatting with you again. I hope you've enjoyed Annemarie, because I have. I've learned a lot. I've taken notes. I've wrapped my head around the idea of a virtual photo shoot. And maybe when I do it, I will share my pictures, and so you can get an inspiration of what can happen for you. But until then, I hope you'll have a great day. And thank you for hanging out. And I'll see you again soon. That is it, my friend. To listen to more exclusive interviews like this one, simply go to the world's best kept secret podcast.com and select interviews based on preferred topic.